This video is going to talk about how long does it take to get a travel healthcare job.
Nomadicare.com makes it easy to be a travel nurse, travel therapist, or any allied health traveler. It's full of unbiased education, a job board marketplace with pay listed up front, and there are free tools to learn how to negotiate to make sure you're getting paid fair. Our bread and butter is vetted recruiter matchmaking. You tell us where you want to go, and we will match you with perfectly vetted recruiters who pay the best and have jobs where you want them.
And there's two parts to this. One, how long does it take to usually get an offer? But then number two, what I'm really talking about is how long does it take to actually start making income, like being inside of a job. First, I'll talk about the offer. The offer itself is typically going to be less than 1 week from the interview. And many times you literally know at the end of the interview, the person's like, you sound great, I'm going to offer it to you. I'm calling your staffing agency right now. Sometimes the interviews are not with the decision maker, so you don't know that same day. But I would say a week is on the longer side. You usually do know within a day or two after you interview if they're gonna offer you the job. Now, how long it takes you to get an interview could be longer. And the things that will impact that are, number one, your flexibility. If you're only looking in one region and you have to be in that region, well, you're just limiting yourself to only jobs that pop up there. And even if there is a job or two there might be a lot of healthcare workers in your specialty looking at those same two jobs. And so even if you apply to both, you might not get an interview. So the biggest thing for getting interviews is your flexibility. How wide of a region can you look and happily interview and go find jobs? And when you are pretty decently open to where you go, you can apply and get interviews pretty quickly. And don't forget, you can apply to lots of jobs at once. It's not just one at a time. So you might interview with 3 or 4 jobs in a week and then hopefully get an offer or two back. You will have to decide once you get an offer if you want to take the job, usually within 24 hours or maybe 48 hours, but you don't have much more time than that. Okay, but then let's talk about how long from there does it take you to actually start making income? When does the start date typically start? 1 week is gonna be the very shortest we see. And that is literally if you're already background checked and drug screened and you have your license, everything is done with that staffing agency. Usually this happens when you're like going to a contract and it gets canceled, which is rare. And that means you're super credentialed. Like your drug screen is even gonna be good to go because you just got it for that job. So that staffing agency who got you the first job could get you another job really quickly because there's really no other credentialing to do. But more commonly, 2 weeks is gonna be very quick. 3 weeks might be more common, and then we sometimes see 4 and 5 weeks. Now, every now and then there's a start date that's farther out, and sometimes travelers even want that. They want to plan way ahead, and sometimes they can interview and get a start date that's 2 months out. But the most common is going to be that 3 week to 4 to 5 week range of when you get the offer to when you start. So what this means too is when you're in a contract and your contract is 13 weeks long, you're actually going to start looking for your next contract about halfway through the first one. And at that point you can think, do I want to extend at this place? Is this place offering me an extension? And if not, then let me start applying and looking for the next one so I don't have this big gap in between the assignments, unless you want a gap. I'm gonna tell you the 3 biggest things that impact how long it takes you to start your assignment. Number 1 biggest thing is licensing. If you don't already have a license in that state when you're applying and getting offered the job, this is the number 1 thing that makes it creep into that 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks mark of not being able to start quickly. Licensure by far takes the longest, way more than running background screens, way more than titers or TB test or drug test, the licensure. And so licensing is something that's on us as the travel healthcare worker to get. So the moment we get an offer, if we do not have a license in that state, you want to go home and apply for that license right away. It can be a little bit tedious, but doing it right away really is the best thing you can do to try to get that on-time start and not have a delayed assignment, which is just the worst when you're ready to make income and you're just sitting and waiting for that license. And number two, I'm just gonna say a little bit more in terms of flexibility. Flexibility can mean a few different things. One, it's flexibility of location. That one, of course, is huge. The bigger the region you're looking at, the more job opportunities you'll have. But there's also flexibility of just things like if you're willing to float, what schedule you're willing to have. Sometimes there's nurses who will travel and say, I'll only do block scheduling, which is okay, but it will limit your options more because hospitals might want someone who's a little bit more flexible with their schedule. So if you have anybody else applying at the same time as you who doesn't have such rigid expectations, they'll probably pick the other person. And then there's the flexibility of pay. Depending on the region you go to, the amount that you're worth, the average pay for your specialty will be different. The more flexible you are on having a range of how much you'll make, especially in different regions, the more that you'll have an abundance of jobs available for you. And number three, the last thing that really impacts this is going to be just the job market. In travel healthcare, especially if you do this year after year, you're gonna see that there is ebbs and flows. So sometimes when the market is just abundant and there seems to be so many jobs, and then sometimes it's gonna feel a lot more competitive where you're going to have to be more flexible if you still want to travel. And that is just simple supply and demand. Sometimes it's seasonality and certain seasons just have more job openings. Sometimes it's something crazy like a pandemic of the whole world that makes the industry explode, and then the pandemic settling down, and so it goes back to something more normal. Sometimes it has to do with how many other travelers in your specialty are out there right then, and that also goes up and down. So there's so many things that make it where sometimes the industry is more competitive and sometimes it's more abundant for us. And that's just going to be something to watch and know. So there's not too much you can do to change the supply and demand, but you can change how flexible you are if they were in a market where there's not as many jobs in your specialty. So quick recap on how long does it take to get a travel job. Number one, it'll be pretty quick that you get interviews as long as you're open. Number two, you'll get an offer usually within a week on the long end, but many times within a day or two after the interview for the shorter end. You will decide within 24 hours typically if you want the job, and then from there, it's really licensing and credentialing, and that's gonna take anywhere from probably 2 weeks on the really quick side up to 4 or 5 weeks in between your jobs. If you want to keep learning all about travel healthcare, like and subscribe to this channel. We have new videos that come out every single week, all about this topic. And of course, go to Nomadicare.com. That is an amazing website that is just for healthcare travelers, full of resources and tools that are free for you to use.